The battlefield before sunrise, before the world touches you, before a single message arrives. Before your name is called, your schedule resumes, your duties tighten like rope around your freedom. There is a moment, silent, unclaimed. Most people never enter it. They wake into noise. They wake into memory. They wake into reaction. But what if I told you that the most powerful people in history, the ones who shape empires, wealth, art, and destiny, did not begin their day with the world. They began it with self, with command, with thought. Napoleon Hill said, "The dominating thoughts of one's mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward, physical action." But he didn't just mean through the day. He meant especially in the morning, because morning is the gate. A metaphysical transition from unconscious to conscious, from infinite to finite, from the silence of the dream world to the noise of the real. And right there, in that fragile hour, you are either crowned or conquered, not by the clock, but by your own mental code. See, you think you wake up and start the day, but in truth, the day starts you, unless you reclaim it. There is something you must do every morning, not a hack, not a routine, not a productivity gimmick, but a spiritual alignment. Because if you win the morning, you win the thought. And if you win the thought, you win the life. This isn't about brushing your teeth and journaling. This is about who commands the gate, you or the world. And once you understand this power, once you own it, everything begins to shift. Your thoughts, your income, your self-respect, your energy, your magnetism, your identity. Watch your morning, and you'll see your future. Let's begin. Symbol: the blueprint and the mirror. The mind is nothing fixed. It is a sculptor's clay, shaped daily by thought, especially at first light. They won't tell you this, but the blueprint for your entire day, and eventually your entire life, is quietly drawn in the first 5 to 15 minutes after waking. Not with your hands, not with your words, but with the dominant frequency of your thinking. That first thought, it isn't just random. It's a signal to your nervous system, to your subconscious mind, to your behavior, and to the hidden magnetic field of your destiny. But most people, they don't choose it. They receive it. From yesterday's worries, from someone else's urgency, from fear dressed as responsibility, from a notification before they even remember their own name. And so the blueprint begins not with power, but with passivity. And that blueprint becomes a prison, a silent architectural plan that rebuilds the same version of themselves day after day. This is why the rich get richer, not just in money, but in identity. And why the poor, mentally and emotionally, keep waking up into the same loop. Because the blueprint doesn't change. Now here's what Napoleon Hill discovered, something few ever understood. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But there's a hidden clause. Your mind must conceive it early, while it's still impressionable, while it's still unguarded by the filters of doubt, guilt, or logic. And there lies the unseen truth. The moment your eyes open is not physical, it's spiritual. You are handed a brush, and the canvas of your entire emotional state for that day is blank. Will you create with intention, or default to the same recycled fear? Will you look in the mirror and see a sculptor, or a slave to yesterday? Understand this: your life doesn't spiral out of control at noon. It fractures at 6:05 a.m. when you reach for your phone instead of your vision. When you think about emails instead of essence. When you drink caffeine before you've even remembered your cause. There is an architect living inside you, silent, patient, powerful, but he's been starved, buried under 10,000 mornings of unconscious repetition. If you keep waking up into someone else's rhythm, you will keep building someone else's reality. And that's not a metaphor. It's a law. Look closely. The men and women who dominate their fields, they have already won the day before anyone else is even awake. Not because they are superhuman, but because they remember who they are before the world can tell them. You don't become great through goals. You become great through morning identity. Now here's the truth most avoid. You are always under construction. The only question is, who's holding the pencil? Every belief you carry, every emotion you recycle, every self-image you reinforce is being built brick by brick in the first quiet moments of consciousness. That silence? It's not empty. It's the most fertile soil on earth. And if you plant poison, distraction, doubt, hurry, resentment, don't be surprised when your day tastes bitter. But if you plant intention, if you write your inner code instead of reading the world's, you'll begin to see something strange happen. Peace returns. Direction sharpens. Distractions lose power. You begin remembering your future. This isn't about mantras or manifesting a car. This is about remembering that your mind is a builder. And every day, it begins construction at dawn. Now ask yourself, would you let a stranger design the home you live in? Then why let chaos, memory, or comparison design your mind? Become the architect. Stand before the mirror, not to judge, but to command. Say nothing until your thought is pure. Move nothing until your inner frequency is sovereign. Morning is not when you wake up. It's when you return to yourself. Because if you forget your power in the morning, you'll spend the rest of the day trying to prove it. Symbol, the echo chamber. The mind will return to its last instruction, whether planted by purpose or poisoned by passivity. When your eyes open, your mind doesn't start blank. It starts obedient to whatever was programmed yesterday, to the emotional residue of your last dominant thought, to the instructions you didn't even realize you gave it. This is the echo chamber, a psychological loop that doesn't ask questions. It just repeats. You think you're deciding how to feel today, but in reality, you're reliving what you already believed yesterday. Napoleon Hill warned about this in Outwitting the Devil. He spoke of drifting, the most dangerous psychological state of all. A mind without purpose, a life without conscious control. And drifting begins at dawn, not with dramatic decisions, but with the default command. The moment you wake up and think, I'm tired. I'm already behind. I have too much to do. I don't feel like it today. You've already given your subconscious its marching orders, and it doesn't argue. It just executes. That one thought becomes your frequency, your chemistry, your posture, your internal story. And like a magnet, it pulls your behaviors, your choices, your moods right into alignment. Not because it's true, but because it's repeated. Here's the hidden code most never see. The subconscious mind does not understand truth. It only understands repetition with emotion. So whatever you emotionally rehearse first thing in the morning, you give life to. Even if it's a lie, even if it's fear, even if it's someone else's idea of you. This is why people stay stuck. Not because they aren't talented, but because they unconsciously reinforce an identity they never chose. Let's get painfully clear. You cannot expect to live a powerful life with a power-draining script running in the background. You cannot reach for greatness at 3 p.m. If you installed self-doubt at 7 a.m., that's the law of the loop. Whatever thought you accept in the morning becomes your leader for the day. Now, how do you break it? How do you override a lifetime of mental drift? You issue a new command. You interrupt the loop. The first thought of your day must be chosen like a weapon, like a spell, like a blueprint, not a reaction. And it must come before the world speaks, before your phone, before memory, before identity settles back into old roles. You must become the one who speaks first. But this isn't some robotic affirmation. It's the conscious planting of belief in the most fertile moment of the day, before resistance can wake up and fight it. You don't say, I hope today goes well. You say, today I command my mind. I remember who I am. I am the cause, not the effect. My vision is louder than my fear. And then you repeat it, with energy, with certainty, with breath. Not to convince the world, but to convince you? Because your subconscious is always listening. It's waiting for leadership. And if it doesn't get it from you, it will take it from memory, fear, anxiety, or social programming. This is the truth. You are not what you wake up feeling. You are what you decide to lead with. You are the one who gives the order. So start with fire. Start with silence if you must. But never start with reaction. Reaction is the religion of the defeated. It is the gospel of those who forgot they could choose. And you are not here to repeat. You are here to recode. So here's your invitation. Tomorrow morning, before you move, interrupt the pattern. Don't ask yourself how you feel. Ask yourself who you are and answer with power. Because the day is already listening and it will follow whatever voice speaks first. Symbol, the inner flame. Every day is a fire and your thoughts are the match. What will you ignite? There is a fire inside you. But fire left unattended becomes smoke. It chokes. It blinds. It weakens. And that's what happens to most people each morning. Their inner flame isn't fed. It flickers, then fades. They rise into the day, but never rise into themselves. Napoleon Hill knew this. Thought alone was not enough. He wrote, "Desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible." But where does that faith begin? Where is that desire ignited? The answer is found not in the actions you take, but in the ritual you practice with your mind. This is not about habits. This is about internal alchemy, transmuting thought into power before your feet hit the ground. Let me show you how. Step 1. The breath of command before you check your phone. Before you speak a word. Before you move a muscle. Breathe. Deep, conscious. Not just for oxygen, but for ownership. Let each breath signal to your body, I am awake and I am in control. Let it be a break from the noise and a bridge back to your center. Your breath is the first truth of your day. If you skip it, you skip yourself. Step 2. Speak the identity. Now speak. Not to the world, but to yourself. Your inner builder is listening. Give him orders. This is your statement of identity. Not what you want, what you are. Say it in present tense. Say it from power. Say it even if your mind resists, because repetition breaks resistance. Examples. I am a disciplined creator of my future. I move with focus. I lead with clarity. I am wealth in motion. I am peace on purpose. I rise today with vision. I refuse the noise. Say only what you wish to become. Why? Because repetition with belief programs your subconscious mind like software. This is auto-suggestion, but not as theory, as weapon. Step 3. Visualize the emotional outcome. Close your eyes. See the version of you who already lives the life you're building. But don't just see them. Feel them. What do they move like? What do they say no to? What emotional tone do they carry, even in chaos? Now, feel it in your body. This is the principle Hill taught. What you emotionally imprint in the morning becomes your dominant internal image, and the subconscious must act in harmony with that image. This isn't wishful thinking. This is neural construction. The mind, when given a picture plus emotion plus repetition, begins reordering your perceptions and behaviors to match the image. So if you start your day feeling like a leader, you will move like one. You will reject what doesn't match. You will attract what aligns. This is why so many people fail. They think they need motivation, but what they actually need is morning alignment. Step 4. Anchor the frequency before you move. Anchor the state. Pick a single word or phrase that encapsulates your chosen frequency for the day. Examples: calm, command, creator, precision, royal, untouchable, present. Say it aloud. Feel it. Let it echo. Let this be your shield against the noise to come. Step 5. Move with intention now and only now rise. This is not symbolic. This is literal. Stand up as the version of you just envisioned. Every move from this moment forward must reflect what you already decided. No more rushing. No more checking messages in a state of lack. No more entering the day. You own it. You see, rituals aren't about superstition. They're about state control. And whoever controls the state controls the outcomes. This is the discipline no one sees, the identity no one questions, the architecture no one teaches. But it is more powerful than any strategy, planner, or goal system you could ever buy. Why? Because this ritual reclaims your throne. It makes your mind your servant, not your master. It builds spiritual authority before you face external pressure. And most importantly, it feeds the flame. Because without this ritual, your fire dies early. You start chasing instead of commanding. You start reacting to life instead of designing it. But with this ritual, you rise as the cause, not the effect. That is the beginning of all greatness. Now ask yourself, what fire did you feed this morning? What flame will you feed tomorrow? Symbol, the watchtower. The first hour is sacred. Guard it like a fortress under siege. There is a silent moment right after you rise but before the world floods in, where your mind is still unarmored, open, impressionable. This is the hour of maximum vulnerability and maximum opportunity. It's what I call the gatekeeper's hour. You are the gatekeeper. And every day you stand watch at the door of your mind, the entrance to your soul, the opening to your inner temple. And just like a city's gates in ancient times, this hour determines one thing, what enters. But most people leave the gates wide open. They wake up and within 5 minutes, they have checked notifications, absorbed 5 other people's emotions let in the news. The market, the metrics rehearsed yesterday's stress, said yes to the demands of others, rebuilt the same fragile identity they swore they'd outgrow. And then they wonder why the day feels scattered, heavy, already lost before noon. But here's the hidden truth. Your first hour is not when the day begins. It's when your future is decided. Because whatever enters your mind in the first hour sets your frequency. And that frequency becomes attraction, perception, reaction, and eventually reality. So I'll ask you directly, who or what have you been letting through the gate? Have you been defending your sovereignty or surrendering it? Napoleon Hill warned us clearly, any person who submits to the influence of fear or doubt will never develop definiteness of purpose. And where do fear and doubt slip in unnoticed? Not at night, not during conflict, but in the quiet hour when you think you're safe. The moment your phone lights up, the moment you scroll, check, compare, respond, you've already lost the gate. Not to war, but to invitation. You didn't defend your mind, you opened it to invasion. Now let me tell you something few will admit. If you do not defend the gate, you will live in reaction forever. You will think you're making choices, but really you're just responding to noise. Emotional, digital, energetic. You'll wonder why you can't concentrate, why your mood shifts so fast, why your goals feel vague, why your inner peace slips away before breakfast. It's not because you're weak. It's because the gate has no guard. So here's the shift. From now on, the first hour belongs to you. No inputs, no external voices, no negotiations. You are not being rude. You are being righteous. This is the hour of the gatekeeper, and it is non-negotiable. During this hour, you must protect your energy like sacred oil, delay exposure to external data, refuse to be emotionally available on demand, maintain a high-frequency internal environment, and most of all, stay in command of your internal weather. It doesn't mean you ignore life. It means you don't let life enter before you've remembered who you are. In ancient warrior cultures, there were rituals before battle, not because they needed them physically, but because the inner alignment determined the outer outcome. You are at war, not with the world, but with drift. And drift is subtle. It speaks with your voice. It pretends to be urgent. It disguises itself as checking in, but every check-in to the outside is a check-out from self. So protect the gate. Even if it's just 30 minutes of silence, even if it's just journaling your vision before emails, even if it's one small act of sovereignty. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Because once you remember your own frequency, the noise loses power, the requests feel lighter, the urgency becomes transparent, and the day begins to obey you. This is spiritual warfare in modern form, and most have already surrendered by sunrise. But not you. You are the gatekeeper now, and no one enters without permission. Symbol, the sculptor's chisel. Each morning, your identity awaits its sculptor, and whether by will or by default, it is always carved. The world will tell you that identity is fixed, that who you are is written in some invisible book, waiting to be discovered. But they're wrong. Identity is not found. It is forged. And the forge opens hottest in the morning, before the day's noise calcifies your thoughts, before roles return and titles tighten around your neck, before expectation becomes your costume and pressure becomes your crown. There is a moment when the clay is still soft, and in that moment, the sculptor awakens. Every morning, you are handed a chisel, not a little one, but something far more powerful, a choice. A decision to either consciously create the identity you want to embody, or unconsciously reenact the one that was programmed into you. This is the law of morning identity. Whatever identity you emotionally affirm in the first hour becomes the operating system of your day. Why? Because identity is not built by logic. It is built by repetition and emotion. And in the early morning hours, both are at their peak sensitivity. The subconscious mind, your internal blueprint machine, is wide open. It doesn't just hear your thoughts, it obeys them. So when you wake up and think, I can't handle this, or I'm still behind, or I'm not ready yet, you are not just feeling, you are programming. You're sculpting weakness without realizing it. But here's the miracle, the hidden inheritance Hill left us. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. What he meant is that your self-concept is the root. Your success, your decisions, your reactions, they are the fruit. So if you want different outcomes, you don't need to force behavior. You need to forge identity. And it begins every time in the morning. Identity isn't built by accident. Imagine a sculptor standing before raw stone. They don't start chiseling randomly. They begin with a vision. A mental image so clear, they already see the form inside the stone. Now hear this. Your mind is the stone. Your thoughts are the chisel. And your morning is the moment you choose what form to carve into yourself. If you wake without vision, the stone remains unformed. Or worse, shaped by someone else. This is how people wake up at 40, 50, 60 years old and wonder why they don't recognize themselves. They were sculpted by culture, by family, by fear, but not by will. And now is your chance to reclaim the chisel. Morning identity is emotional memory. You don't rise with neutral energy. You rise into a current, shaped by yesterday's emotions, years of conditioning, and silent inner beliefs. But you are not helpless to it. You are the architect of the current. You can override it with a single act of will. Emotionally embody the version of yourself you are becoming. First thing in the morning, not later. Not when it's convenient. Not when the mood hits. But before the day has a chance to reattach the old mask, look in the mirror and say, I am wealth. I am strength. I am decisive. I am the disciplined one. I am worthy of everything I envision. You won't believe it at first. The old identity will fight. The ego will protest. The nervous system will call it unfamiliar. But if you stay with it, if you speak it while breathing it, visualizing it, emotionally imprinting it, you begin rewiring the root identity. And the world eventually will have no choice but to reflect it. Repetition builds reality. It is not enough to think once. You must install it daily, relentlessly, without exception. Why? Because you have decades of old programming, emotional memories that say you are small, weak, distracted, not enough. And that programming will default back into place the moment your guard is down. This is why morning identity must be intentional. Repetition, emotion, imagery, certainty. That is the formula to burn in a new self-concept. Because as Hill taught us, belief is not born, it is built. And the subconscious cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality, only between what is repeated and what is not. Sculpting questions before you move on, ask yourself, who am I sculpting today? What identity must I wear to receive the life I've claimed? What thought must die this morning so that I may live? These questions are not poetic. They are practical. They are mirrors. Because if you're not consciously sculpting, you're unconsciously conforming. And one day, the stone will harden. Not because it was supposed to, but because you waited too long. Sculpt now, shape now, choose now. Identity is not something you look for. It is something you decide to become moment by moment, breath by breath, especially in the morning. If you've ever wondered why your life doesn't match your goals, look not at your plan, look at your pattern. And if you want to shift it, pick up the chisel. Symbol, the clock with no hands. Time does not create destiny. Intention does. There's a clock inside you, but it doesn't run on hours. It doesn't care for calendars or deadlines. It responds only to one thing, intention. You've been taught that the day begins at 6 a.m. or 7, or whenever the alarm sounds. But the truth is far deeper and far more dangerous to ignore. Your life begins the moment you decide to become the cause, not the effect. Most people don't wake up. They are woken by pressure, by obligation, by memory, by emotion, by a schedule someone else wrote. And so, the inner clock stays silent, unmoved. Because the hands of that clock do not move for reaction. They move for command. Hill taught this without ever saying it directly, that the universe does not bend to chance. It bends to the mind that assumes responsibility for its state. So let me ask you, what have you been waiting on? Time? Readiness? The right mood? The right energy? The right set of circumstances? You don't need more time. You need more decision. Because your life is not waiting on the clock. It's waiting on you. Time obeys the one who decides. This is the final secret, the invisible mechanism of all greatness. The future belongs to the one who declares it before proof exists. And every morning is a rehearsal of that declaration. When you wake, you must rise into cause. You must choose to begin the day, not be pulled into it. This sounds simple, but it is rare, because being the cause is costly. It means saying no when it would be easier to please holding the frame when anxiety wants to flood you, aligning your behavior to a future no one else can see, refusing to let old emotions write new days, standing still, present. Even when the world spins fast, being the cause means you no longer seek permission. You stop asking time to deliver your destiny, and instead, you activate it from within. You realize that your inner clock was never broken. It was just waiting for your leadership. Reverse the flow. Here's how most people live. They wake up and wait for motivation, for certainty, for signs. And so their energy chases everything. Reaction becomes routine. And by noon, they've already betrayed their inner world 20 times. But there is another way. And it begins with one declaration. I create, I cause, I lead, I begin. 4 sentences that reset your entire frequency. Because when you start the day, rather than let it start you reverse the flow. Instead of chasing energy, you command it. Instead of needing motivation, you become it. Instead of surviving time, you transcend it. And the clock, your inner one, finally ticks. Not because it was broken, but because it was waiting for its master. You are the source, not the signal every morning. The world waits to tell you who you are, Don't listen. You are not a signal receiver. You are the source. Let your first thought shape the field. Let your frequency become the dominant tone. Let your internal certainty dictate external motion. Because the moment you decide to become the cause, you stop asking the world for evidence and begin generating proof through presence. Not by force, but by being. And presence is timeless. So tomorrow, don't just wake up. Arrive, like the architect, like the flame, like the gatekeeper, like the sculptor. You are not here to watch the clock. You are here to move it. Take the breath. Speak the identity. Feel the image. Protect the hour. Sculpt the self. Command the frequency. And then walk into the day, not as someone trying to find power, but as someone who remembers they are it. Time was never your master. It is your reflection.